Ooh, it was a rough week for Clemson fans everywhere, but we're still back on Off the Cuff. I'm Alex, and this is Will. We're set for another great week of talking sports. I mean, plenty of action across the country in college football. A lot of exciting things, a lot of surprising things. We're going to get to as many as we can. But Will, how you doing this week? Short week for you.
I'm doing good, but the first thing we need to do, this is Alex Dodd over there who just introduced us, and I'm Will Vandervort, just for those people who might need to know our last names. I think that's important.
Yeah, you don't need to know those. You don't need to know those.
But I'm doing good, Alex. How's things in South Dakota, buddy?
Oh, it's a beautiful week here in South Dakota. Just went to a rivalry soccer game, two undefeated teams. Pretty good game. We got some good soccer over here in Western South Dakota.
Speaking of soccer, as we're recording this, and Clemson women's soccer team, ranked number 9 in the country, just knocked off number 7 Arkansas over at Riggs Field tonight in historic Riggs Field in Clemson. So congrats to Eddie Brownowski and his women's soccer team over at Clemson. They get a big top 10 win. I tell you, man, Clemson soccer, if you haven't been with Coach Noonan, y'all guys know he's won a national championship, and over there with the men's soccer team and what they've done, played for the title twice, won it once. But the women are just as good a program. I mean, they're always in the NCAA tournament. They've been to the Elite Eight, in recent years. So like the men, they are having a dominant program against South Carolina. So, it's all good. If you can beat the Gamecocks and dominate and everybody else and have a good program, it's always good. And I know the guy who's probably going to join us here in a minute, he knows all about men's and women's soccer because he covered it for us at the Clemson Insider back in the day. So we could talk to him a little bit about the Tigers getting that big win over against number 7 Arkansas here also tonight. So anyway, but yeah, so you talking soccer, I'm talking soccer. That's why we're called Off the Cuff, because we're going to talk mostly football.
It's the beautiful game. Soccer is the beautiful game. And yeah, Eddie has quietly built a juggernaut of a program at Clemson. A big draw against South Carolina earlier in the year. They deserve their ranking. And hey, another big non-conference win for the Tigers tonight. But we're going to bring in Alex Turri from ClemsonWire. Alex worked with us at the Clemson Insider. And when we ventured into some video projects, Alex gave us his mortal locks of the week. He is our sports gambling expert. So, Alex, it's good to have you back on the program. It's not good enough if we have one Alex. We've got to have 2.
I mean, 2's better than 1. And, this is about the best trio you'll find, in my opinion.
No, I seem to agree with that assessment.
We like to have fun together.
We do.
Not a bad time.
We do. We don't mind giving it to each other, and we all take it, greatly. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't get mad at each other as we kind of go off on each other. So that's what makes it fun.
I think some people are going to misinterpret the way you said that, but
I know.
I agree.
Yeah, I tried to catch it. I tried. I couldn't. It was too late. You just had to let it go out at that point. But
Well, Alex, it's good to have you on the program. I guess kind of first of all, what were your impressions when you saw the Tigers take the field at Wallace Wade Outdoor Stadium on Monday night?
All right, so I apologize about.
I know it's a loaded question. It's a loaded question this week.
So, I mean, I texted Will a couple of my thoughts.
He did.
I sent him my thoughts as well, and I'm not going to go over exactly what I sent to Will during the game, but that wouldn't be appropriate.
Hey, guys, I get a lot of people's thoughts when games like that happen. Trust me, my phone blows up.
So I'll try and keep it like on a shorter scale. I don't think the sky's necessarily falling in Clemson like a lot of people are acting. There was definitely, whether people want to admit it or not, there were definitely positives watching. I rewatched the game, watched a couple routes specifically from the receivers and the way the offense was functioning. They're not done. It was not a good experience by any means, but you can see the potentials there. But at the same time, it's pretty disheartening to watch a game like that. Will, I told you, my dad called me. He's like, "Did you read Will's article? It was spot on." And I was like, "Yeah, it was pretty good."
My dad texted me about Will's article too.
Yeah, so, the dads love it. He still reads Will's stuff more than mine, which kind of, I don't blame him. But, it's just I think there was positives on both defense and offense. I do think that there's something internally going on in Clemson that needs to change.
Mhm.
I do think they're missing Venables a lot. The energy he brought, it seems like what's the
The
best?
defense lacks the energy. There's no doubt.
Yeah, so it's like it seems like they have the mindset of don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. It's who's the coach that I always think about when it'll come to me in a little bit once I think about it. I don't know, I'm missing it right now, but they don't seem to have a sense of urgency. They don't play with much intensity.
Mhm.
I just feel like I know talking about killers is a bad thing, but they lack killers. It seems they lack that edge that's going to make them take the next step. It doesn't seem like there's a leader in that locker room either, which is very concerning for me. That's
Yeah,
the biggest.
Levon on our podcast said the other day that Levon Kirkland, he said there's no dogs. He's like,
Yeah, no dogs.
he says maybe the only dog that's on the team is Will Shipley, and that's it. And then everybody else is sort of just kind of doing their own thing. They got nice little stat lines and stuff like that, but nobody's like, kind of like rallying together, kind of being a part of it, having that little bit of energy, that swag. And he said, on defense, if you don't bring the energy, then you're not really playing defense.
Yeah, you can't.
And he says that's the thing he notices, the same thing you just said. There's no energy on defense at all. And, when you talk this big game that you're the best defense in the country and that you're going to dominate people, but yet in the second half, Duke, who had 35 yards rushing at halftime, finished with 199 yards rushing. They ran for 85 yards in the fourth quarter when it mattered the most and averaged 7.4 yards a carry on you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired of hearing that you think you're the greatest defense ever and you talk all this stuff. I don't want to hear it anymore. Shut up and go play football and prove to me you're the best defense, because the last couple of years, you ain't proved crap. People Tennessee ran all over you. Notre Dame ran all over you, and Duke ran all over you. When it mattered most, those three teams physically beat you into the ground. And I'm tired of you saying we're physical and we're better and we're Clemson this defense and we're the best. It's time for you to start proving it.
I think mentality was a big thing with that too. It seems like the mentality of this team, they're hanging on to we're the underdogs. People are going to underestimate us. They don't understand that we work just as hard as everybody else, what we go through. Where are the diamonds in the rough? You ever think about this? Like the past few years, like the Renfros, the Bull, there's nobody's stepping up. And I don't know if that, like we said, an internal thing there, but it's just weird how much the media attention seems to be affecting this team, which sounds crazy, but I genuinely think the attention that they got, the transfer portal, is Dabo going to change his ways? I legitimately think at this point that's negatively affecting the team, because at some point you're trying to prove something that doesn't need to be proven. Like, you don't need to prove that our way works. We've seen that your way works. So instead of just fully diving into that, keeping to push into that, we're the underdogs, why not just admit, we're now at a place where we have these expectations, and rather than be combative about it, maybe be a little honest, maybe take some responsibility. It's a weird situation, because I do feel like there's a lack of responsibility being taken within that team as well, which I don't know if that's a coaching staff thing or a players thing specifically, but it does, there's no accountability, it seems.
Yeah, one thing I noticed that kind of goes along with both of your points, Will, with the way that Duke was able to rush the ball in the second half, and Alex, what you're saying of guys just not stepping up and taking responsibility. And I think in the things you heard from players this week, they definitely owned the loss. But where was that guy stepping up on the sideline, getting in somebody's face and going out and making a play? I think that's what fans want to see when they watch a game. And that's certainly what coaches want to see too. They don't want to be the only ones who are out there motivating guys. And I don't know about you, Will, from the press box, you can see a lot more than I can see on TV. But I didn't see anybody taking ownership on the sideline during the game or getting out there to motivate guys to go make plays. Did you see anybody kind of stepping into that role in real time on Saturday or Monday?
There's two things that I noticed. One, Will Shipley was getting guys' faces, and he's trying to get them going. Again, the only dog on the team, as we talked about just a little while ago. And then I think Cade clubbed with his chasing down the fastest guy Duke has a guy who ran a 10.47 in the 100-yard dash in track.
Yeah, there was definitely urgency on that play.
Yeah, that to me, if I'm playing for Cade Klubnik and I see him do that, I'm going out there and I'm going to beat somebody's ass. Excuse my language. You know what I'm saying? My quarterback just did that. Nobody's scoring on me, but that's not what happened. The defense rolled over. They're like, "Oh, we're done. We're just going to let them run up the middle and just kill us and gash us here on these next 3 drives." You know, I would, if I'm Cade Klubnik, I would have been pissed with my teammates, and I would have told them how pissed I was. I'm out here busting my ass, and you guys just let them come and score. It's 13-7 at that point. You just let them go in 3 plays and score, and all of a sudden it's a 2-touchdown game now. You know what I'm saying? I was disappointed with that. And then after the game, Will Shipley, dude, you want to talk about somebody who's mad? Ooh, he was mad. He came out of the locker room. Guys already got dressed, took their showers, went in, got on the bus. You know, Will Shipley comes out still in his football pants, wearing his undershirt underneath it. And I don't know what happened in that locker room, but he was doing that cool down kind of thing. Like you could just tell. And
like the thing that angry guys like Alex and Will have to do quite often.
Yes,
I can tell.
Yeah, and he did that several times, and he was extremely mad. I could see it on his face. He was frustrated, so there's something going on, and I don't know what it is or how they can fix it, but it's not good right now, guys. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
I would be mad if I were him too, because this is something I wrote about after the game. I'm not going to sit here, and I think he had 23 touches. I'm not going to sit here and say that's not a good amount of touches. I
think it wasn't a good enough amount of touches.
But he should have had 35 touches in that game, whether it's 30 carries, 5 receptions. Why are we avoiding letting the best player on the field take over a game? How many games have we watched where we've seen Shipley dominate and then they just decide, you know what, we're in the red zone. Why don't we do anything but get the ball?
We just gained 7 yards. Let's throw a swing pass.
Mm-hmm. You know, and we all thought wide receiver screens were gone. They're never going. Apparently.
That drives me crazy. That drives me. And listen, you're right.
I understand the screen.
First of all,
the concept of a screen, I understand, but.
First of all, you were listening to mine and Alex's conversation just about 30 minutes ago. It's like, which is exact. Alex even said 35 carries. You should have 35
I was driving back.
That was my number. 35 touches was my number.
But that's
the Alex's. We got the telepathy going.
Yeah,
coast to coast.
Two smartest people in the room right now, obviously. So, but legitimately, like I can't stress this enough. Will Shipley, if he just got the workload any other star running back in college. Look at Quinshon Judkins. He was a freshman last year, but Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans last year. Both of them were getting 25, 30 touches a game, it seemed. Mm-hmm. Neither one was not eating. Why can't Will Shipley eat? Why can't we just say, hey?
Well, he can. He possesses the ability, but you got to give him the football.
Yeah.
Get him the football. And this is the other thing, and I don't want to go too much into this because we do want to get your mortal locks. Mm-hmm. But one thing that's frustrating to me is just, why not create opportunities for him by taking away some of the reads in the offense? Because it seemed like when they were running the RPOs or when they were running the zone read, that there were a few times where I could pinpoint that, it seemed like the wrong read was made.
Yeah.
And, it's easy for a coach in a post game to say, yeah, we've got it set up to where we can give Will Shipley the ball 30 times because we run, 85 RPOs. It's like, well, take away the RPO and just hand him the football.
Yeah. Do you really need your 205-pound quarterback running an RPO 15 times a game? I don't think Will. So. He's got speed, like you said. That was electric. Watching that, I got juiced. I was ready to make a hit. But we don't need that. He is way too small. He is not the build for that. It's just not his game. Why are we forcing somebody to play a game that doesn't fit their
figure a way to use him in the running game? But not like that. Do it like they did to Deshaun Watson. Be creative in how you use them. Don't run him like up the middle where he gets blown up.
Why don't they roll him out more? I kind of expected them to roll him out more in the game than they did.
The Antonio Williams
just from watching
that rollout was perfect. It was that play. If you watch that play build up from start to finish, it was gorgeous. It just ended with a drop.
He seems so much more comfortable when he's on the move outside of the pocket.
Imagine that wide receivers dropping passes at Clemson. Never would have thought of it.
Well, Alex, before we have to let you go on your merry way and get a good night's rest, I want you to give us some mortal locks. First of all, tell us what you mean by mortal lock, because I had never even heard this before you did it, and then give us your locks of the week.
So mortal lock, basically, you live and die by this. Like if it hits, if it doesn't hit, I'm dead. If it hits, I'm living, and I'm living large. These are the locks that you live and die by.
And I'm wondering, like, when he doesn't hit and he says I'm dead, if that means
that makes me worried.
It makes me worried that somebody's coming to break some legs. You know what I mean?
Listen, Will, this is what I did after the Duke game. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a big drinker.
No, of course not.
But
Not that, no.
moments like that, glass of whiskey, stare myself in the mirror, wonder what's going on in life. I really self-reflect when stuff like that happens. So if you want to go a little bit inside, I go deep, and I think, what can you do better to hit your locks more?
And remember that, if you are having an issue with gambling, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yes.
National Gambling Hotline.
Yes.
So that's for you, Alex, and for anybody else listening. But
be safe and responsible, gentlemen.
Yes. But so let's talk about a couple games we have this week. Liberty is -10. I think -10.5. They're going to win by 20.
Liberty against who? You got to tell us the other part.
It's like an F. Hold on, let me.
You can't do that. You can't come on and
you
say.
cannot tell us who they're playing.
No, because it was either New Mexico or New Mexico State, and I don't want to mix it up. It's one of the New Mexicos. Okay, I think it's New Mexico State. Who played UMass week 1? New Mexico State.
New Mexico State. The Aggies.
Yeah. New Mexico State is terrible. I'm sorry. Watch them. They are awful. They have no juice on offense. Liberty's just gonna. They're gonna boat race them. I don't understand why that.
I trained you enough to know that you got to give us the exact, and you got to be 100%. I think. Don't go with the think. Give me exactly who they're playing.
No, they're playing New Mexico State. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
They're going to boat race them.
What's the spread?
Spread is 10.5 or 10. It opened at 10.5. I might have shifted to 10, which is absurd to me.
So New Mexico State is getting they're getting plus the 10.
No, Liberty's getting that. Liberty is -10. Liberty's -10.5. They are favorites.
Liberty's favorite, but
yes, Liberty's the favorite.
But the other team's getting the 10.5.
Yeah, they're getting the 10.5. I apologize.
Yes,
it's 10. The line went down to 10.
The line is 10. They're getting 10 now. Okay.
Even better. Gift me the points. So I'm sure you guys would know a little bit about this because ACC football. Miami, Texas A&M. Over under 51.5. That is an under. Miami's offense is not that good. A&M's is not that good. They both had easy week 1 match. What was it though?
This is why I'll tell you I was impressed.
It was higher than my expectation.
I was impressed because it came out and physically dominated both lines of scrimmage, and we didn't see that in any game last year from Miami.
I will agree with that, but I also think that Miami, Ohio talked a lot bigger of a game than they're capable of, and that kind of messed with everybody's heads a little bit. You got a guy coming in.
I think the quarterback from Miami of Ohio thought Ben Roethlisberger was going to come out and play.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could figure he was thinking.
Yeah. Okay, well, I could see that. Definitely. But that over is just those two defenses are a lot better than people think. Those two offenses are a lot worse than I think people think. Yeah, and I think they both had easier week 1 matchups to kind of give people that, hey, look, they do have some juice on the offensive side of the ball. It's not.
And the spread's what, 4.5 on that one?
I honestly, it might be
4.5. It's at 4.
Yeah,
it's at Texas A&M -4.
Honestly, right when
on the road.
So it's looking at a 27-23 kind of game is what it's saying then.
Yeah, I'm thinking 24-20, 14-21. It's going to be a close game, but I mean that under is screaming my name. And then this feels like the consensus favorite everywhere I look. Tulane and Ole Miss are playing. Tulane's +7.5. Are we sure that they're that worse of a football team than Ole Miss?
At home, mind you, they're hosting Ole Miss too.
That is it. I haven't seen a game on this slate that hasn't screamed upset more than that. And I don't think people, when that final score came out and it would say it was 28-27 Tulane, 28-20 Tulane, I don't think people would be surprised at all.
So you saying take Tulane straight up on this one?
If you're feeling suave,
you're feeling frisky,
you're feeling yourself, you want to go out, get something nice for your girl, maybe.
But definitely take the 7.5. The 7 to me.
But 7.5, I do not understand that line whatsoever. Look at Ole Miss's week 1. They played they played at an FCS school, I think. I can't remember the name of it.
They won 73-7, so
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, exactly. Trey Harris had like 4
They
catches.
played Bamberg High School last week.
Yeah.
Hey, we beat Barnwell last week. Go Red Raiders. Don't you go there. We beat the ugly War Horses. So.
Yeah, Tulane.
Like
Pratt's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. When you have a quarterback that is stable, can pass the ball, can run, and he knows what is expected out of him. This is the guy who freaking won the Rose Bowl last year against USC.
That's true.
I really like that line. I got kicked out of our Heisman voting poll because I kept picking Tajay Spears, the Tulane running back last year, in my top 5. Because I was like, this guy's the best running back in college football. Why am I not going to put him there? And then he ran for like 200 yards against USC in the Rose Bowl, so that felt pretty good. But yeah, those are my lines. I would say under 51.5 for Miami A&M. Plus 7.5 for Tulane. Those are my 2 favorites. And then Liberty minus 10. I mean, I do not see how they don't win that by 2-3 scores. It just doesn't make those are locks. Lock it in.
Like it.
Well, Alex, we always appreciate having you on the program. We're gonna keep you around for the foreseeable future to have you for some Mortal Locks. So we appreciate you joining us late on a Thursday night on the East Coast.
Of course, glad to help. Go Clemson soccer. I know you guys were talking about it earlier. Mike Noonan, Eddie, they're the best.
Eddie got a big win tonight.
Eddie's having a season.
Yeah,
Eddie's the man. This might be the best team that Eddie's had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where I was on Instagram before the season started and they were showing practice pictures. And I was like, how do they have all of these girls back? It's like, I thought all of these girls were seniors last year.
Yep.
But no, they brought the whole squad back, and it's paying off.
And nobody deserves it more than him, too. He is
absolutely one
of the best interviews I've ever had. I mean, Noonan, as you know, Noonan is the best interview ever, in my opinion. He is Eddie is great. Eddie is great, and I'm very happy to see them succeed.
The 2 most honest guys on Clemson's coaching staff is
Noonan's brutal.
Brad Brownell and Mike Noonan.
Yep. Noonan's never going to sugarcoat.
No.
Noonan will look you in the eyes during an interview and say, that's wrong.
Coach, it looked like you guys played well in the midfield. No, we didn't.
No.
He asked me one time, were you watching the same game I was?
No, he is. And that's electric. But that's the type of coach you need. Literally, he's electric. I love both of them. Go Clemson.
Same here. I love them both.
Awesome. We appreciate you coming on, Alex. You can check out Alex's work on Clemson Wire. He's doing great stuff over there, and we appreciate the time. See you, man.
Have a good one, boys.
Peace, brother.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, that was Alex Turri from Clemson Wire. Always a good time when we have him on the program. He's always got some crazy stuff to say, which is it's good for the brand.
It is part of the TCI alumni, right? That's what it is, you know.
And we're gonna bring on another
future TCI alumni. She's in
the program right now.
Yeah.
But Kayla Abercrombie, who's a member of our team here at Off the Cuff, but also a member of Will's team wherever Will goes. So now at the Clemson Insider. So Kayla, it's good to have you on.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
So how's school going? I know you've got school fired up and rolling now. I don't know if you want me to ask about school, but
it's okay. I can't complain, honestly. I'm taking the bare minimum amount of credits. I'm only taking like 3 real classes and then a riflery class, so it's like not real. So it's fine. It's just like the 2 internships that are really like getting to me in that aspect, you know?
Yeah. And of course, her other internship is with WSBA, Channel 7, and doing a great job with Pete Yanity and all those guys over there. So she's killing it, Alex. That's what we like to hear.
So
it's very exciting stuff, except the only thing is I didn't realize how far away, like when you're driving yourself, Spartanburg seems, it seems so far away. It's an hour drive for me twice a week. Which, it's fine. I'm grateful for the opportunity and I love it. And it's so much fun. But by the end of the night, I am tired. So like tomorrow night, I'll be covering. I always say that now, but I'll be going to 2 different high schools in the Spartanburg area and, kind of shadowing. I'll do a couple stand-ups for that, go back to the station and then help with like the 11:35 shows and then go home and get ready to work for TCI for Saturday's game. So
Gotta love working on Friday nights doing high school football before turning around for an earlier than usual Clemson football game. It's
I
a
know.
classic move, classic student intern move.
I know it's a lot, but I'm very excited. I was gonna, I'm a little nervous for how the game's gonna go, considering our performance this past weekend. But I'm excited. I need to take about like 5 energy drinks in order. Will's gonna like punch me awake at the desk on Saturday.
I was about to say, by third quarter, she's going to be over there.
Will's going to be violating labor laws, punching a student worker. Well, Kayla, what was the atmosphere like for where you were watching the games? I heard you were kind of watching them in downtown Clemson. I know I watched the game with a group of Clemson alums, and it was a tense atmosphere in Denver. So how was it in Tiger Town?
Tense to say the least. I was bopping around a couple of the different bars downtown, just watching the game. For the first place I was at was study hall. We were up on a rooftop, very chill vibe. We had the games going, music was playing, and everyone was kind of like engaged in conversation. It was very chill. Then the game started, and we weren't doing so great. And I noticed like a lot of people started to stand up. People started to go towards the TV. Like there was a lot of people like doing one of these. We had to leave there. We went to a different place, and like no music was playing at this point where, we were down. It was what I want to say, like 0-3, which already had enough of us like biting our fingernails. But, when we got to like, 0-6, it was very tense. There was a lot of yelling going on. It was hostile environment for sure.
I heard a lot of things and might have said some things that I couldn't say on the podcast while I was watching the game.
I can tell you, Alex was very hostile because it was coming through on my text messages, and
I try to keep things, light and easy for Will while he's working. Just sending him helpful pointers, things to look for.
Oh, because you were coaching Will to.
Yeah, student turned master. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I knew that I couldn't talk to anybody like the day, like when the game was happening. Normally, like I'll text Will. Like I do this all the time, like during a football game or like during a basketball game. I'm not like working like with him. I'll text him and I'll be like, "What's happening?" I don't know. It's like I'm stressed out. I couldn't even do that. I was so stressed out. I was like, I can't talk to anybody right now. I can't talk to my family. Like I should watch and hopefully we'll turn it around. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was not a very good time for Clemson and anywhere, whether you were in Durham. And by the way, I think there was at least 10,000 or so Clemson fans there that made the trip on a Labor Day night, knowing they had to go work the next day and stuff like that. So kudos to those fans that came from Clemson and came out to support the Tigers. That was a great Clemson crowd. Unfortunately, the Tigers didn't give me anything to cheer about, to be honest with you. And as I said earlier, really disappointed with the way they played in that fourth quarter more than anything. And but yeah, so Kayla, this week your first home game working. You've obviously went to a ton of games, but I hear there's like a ticket issue going on at Clemson.
There is.
And so can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? And aren't you glad you don't have to worry about that?
I am a little bit glad I don't have to worry about that because me and my friends are actually texting about it now. They're scrambling to find tickets because not all of us got season tickets. I didn't even get season tickets, but Clemson is doing away with like mobile transfers. So like, if you buy a ticket on Ticketmaster for a concert, let's say, or like any other normally like Clemson events, you can transfer it like kind of through your Apple Wallet or like you can do a digital transfer like through student to student, but you can't do that anymore because I guess a lot of times students would buy tickets and then just end up like selling them. And so no one would actually go to the game. And that's just like,
okay.
That's been an issue for the whole time they've done this mobile ticketing is people not showing up.
Right. And so now one of the things is you have to go to the ticket office and pick up your ticket like physically. And I think it's either like a wristband or something, but it's a whole like, kind of ordeal. Like you have to have your student ID number. So if you're, like let's say I couldn't go there personally and pick up 2 tickets. Like I'm allotted one ticket, obviously, and you go there and there's a bunch of things. So the line tomorrow is probably going to be super long. But everyone's kind of mad about that because it's not, like the day of, you could just transfer it and buy a ticket day of the game. But now you're going to have to go there tomorrow and pick it up in person and the line's going to be crazy. So
it's going to be like the old days where people actually had to, camp out and showed that they really wanted to go to the game before they went.
Well, maybe the students
getting a mobile ticket and not showing up.
And I don't mean this at you two guys because you support.
I was a student during this time,
and love them.
I was frustrated by it.
You guys love your Tigers and support them. Alex used to be on the jumbotron anytime he went covering the game, but
it's because I have such a pretty face.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not speaking to you two guys, but I'm kind of glad Clemson's doing this because at least maybe the student section will now be full. And it won't be empty like it is, maybe people will come early. I was watching the Auburn game last week, and they showed the Auburn students coming into the stadium. Kayla, they get there 3 hours before the game, and they fill their entire student section up. And it's
as opposed
unreal.
to Clemson running down the hill and nobody's there.
Yeah. So it's like that's what I want Clemson to get back to with the students. Mm-hmm. Students have been lazy the last 8 or 9 years, and I don't know why, because they got a great football program. But they've been lazy getting to games.
Agreed.
Come in just before the game starts, and then they leave before it's even halftime. And I'm like, why'd you even come? Bring somebody who wants to be there. So, but I'm not talking to you or Alex. Right. But here's something I will say that's pretty funny. And I think I told both of y'all this story. So when I was your age, and we'd get
back in my day,
when we would go to the games, we would walk in 7 miles of snow. Anyway,
you weren't in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Yeah. So anyway, what we would do was my roommate. I didn't go to Clemson, but I went to Anderson, and so on weekends I would come up on game weekends. I would come up to the stadium, and Ralph or his girlfriend, they would come into the stadium already, so they'd already get in. And when they did, they get stamped. And they would stamp a tiger paw. So Ralph's girlfriend would always, my roommate, she would always stamp the tiger paw on my hand, and I could just walk through the gate. All I had to do is just show him my hand, and I walked through the gate. And that's how I got into every game when I was in school. I never paid for a ticket, did anything.
Before the fire marshal started cracking down on the
I'm probably the reason.
You would be the cause of the problem.
And I know there's people out there that have done the exact same thing, that went to Clemson or knew people that went to Clemson, and they would come to the games, and that's how they get in. I was at Clemson, Florida State, first night game ever in the Valley, and Charlie Ward was the quarterback, and I remember getting in there, and I don't remember much of the first half, I'll be honest. I was kind of probably pretty good, and so I don't remember much of that first half, but the second half was great. It was a great game, and it was a great atmosphere, and I remember getting into the stadium and just like yelling at Charlie Ward and telling him how much he sucked. Boy, I was wrong.
Yeah. I'm sure that was the reason that he ended up being such a great player, is because he heard Will yelling at him. It motivated him.
I will remember this when he first came out, his eyes were like this when he looked around, because Clemson was the first big game he ever quarterback. He was a starter. And like he came around and he looked like this because he just looked, and he looked like this during the TV break, and his eyes were wide open, just like, holy crap.
Like the classic Brian Kelly meme.
Yeah, it was like he would be a meme if they had that back then,
I'm surprised you even know what a meme is.
But Charlie Ward was so great. Until Deshaun Watson came, he was the best football player I ever saw play at Clemson until Deshaun Watson came. And it was Charlie Ward. He was unbelievable, just so fun to watch, man. He beat Clemson that night. There's a play where, if you go back and watch it in the fourth quarter when they driving down the field to win the game, Clemson had Wayne Simmons, who was a first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers, as an outside backer, and they had this other guy named Kenzel Jackson on the other side, and they both come off the edge, and they're going to smack him. They got him. 4th down and 16. They got him dead to right. Didn't know where he can go. Somehow he made both of them just run into each other. They literally ran into each other. He skedaddles 23 yards up the sideline, and they go on and win the game 24-20. And it was I hated it. I was pissed, but at the same time, I was like, damn, that guy's good. So that's my story back in my day stories.
So, Kayla, what would give you peace of mind leaving Death Valley on Saturday? Is there anything that Clemson can do that would make you have a better feeling next week?
I mean,
they are playing Charleston Southern.
I know. I was about to say, like, honestly, a big win would be nice, like a strong lead, but a win would be nice. A couple plays, like we didn't have to fight tooth and nail to get a touchdown or to get some yards. Like, maybe make even a couple field goals. Heaven forbid we do that. That would be great to see.
I can even kick field goals.
See, if Will went 3 for 3 in the Clemson media competition last year. I mean,
I did.
He might be getting a call from Dabo if things don't go better next week.
I don't know.
Do you have eligibility left, Will?
If Dabo saw my video earlier that other clips of this, I don't know if Dabo.
Well, that would also require using the transfer portal.
Come
in transfer.
And that's
transfer
another
from
thing.
Anderson.
My column about the transfer portal that went out just about an hour or two ago. That might be another reason why I don't think Dabo's going to call me.
Blame him.
Well, Kayla, we appreciate your time hopping on the podcast. Looking forward to seeing all the work you do for the Clemson Insider this weekend. Have fun, enjoy working. There's nothing like working a game in the Valley. It's a blast. So have fun.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited. I'll talk to you next time.
I'll see you on Saturday, Kayla.
Unfortunately.
Be ready to work.
That was Kayla Abercrombie from the Clemson Insider that joined us. Yeah, Will, let's just go ahead and jump back into this Clemson Duke game for a little bit.
Absolutely.
We have some other stuff to talk about. I maybe was a little overly ambitious with the with the rundown today. But let's talk about this Clemson Duke game. There were a lot of things about it that were frustrating. Yes, it's hard not to agree with what Dabo said about just how weird the game was, and how it seemed like in games things go your way and things don't go your way. It seemed like a night where really nothing was going Clemson's way, and it's pretty rare that you see everything go against you in a football game. But at the same time, Duke turned the ball over a couple times as well.
They did.
But what were your general impressions outside of just it was a weird game?
I mean, Clemson ran the football, I thought, well. I thought the offensive line played really well, which was a good sign. Duke didn't really get to Cade Klubnik. I mean, they had the one sack, and that was more just I think it came off the right side.
I think that sack is probably a negative grade on the quarterback, not the offensive line, because there was a pocket for him to step up into.
Yeah. And he
went away from the
pocket.
pocket.
He ran backward the other way.
Yeah.
But there is the one sack, and other than that, it seemed like I thought the pocket was good for the most part. Wasn't much pressure put on Cade, and it's compared to what was the pressure Riley Leonard was under. I thought Riley Leonard was under a ton of pressure, or especially the first couple quarters.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson got in the backfield, eight or nine times?
Well, he threw the ball away. What do you have, like 9 throwaways?
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting pressure to the quarterback. That's affecting the quarterback, and that's what you want to do. Get him off the spot. If you throw the ball away, that's a negative play, right? I mean, that's a negative play. And so they did those things early, and they ran the ball. Offensive line, I thought overall played well. So if you look at and I know what Dabo was saying yesterday, and I get it. And, he's saying, hey, look, it wasn't all bad. There was a lot of good things that happened, and he's right. There were a lot of good things, but when it mattered,
score.
But when it mattered most, when you had to get in the end zone, you didn't. When you had to get that critical stop from your defense, you didn't get it. And so when you had to pick up that key first down, your quarterback slid too early. I mean, there was just different things, you know what I'm saying? Different things that added up in the end. And if Clemson Duke played again this Saturday, Clemson wins. I really believe that. I think Clemson wins by 13 points. I think they cover. Because I think they would have covered the other day if they just executed in those moments they had opportunities to. Now, that's nothing against Duke. I'm going to give Duke total credit here. Duke played better. Duke deserved to win the game. Duke was more physical. The 3 things you need to do.
Duke also played with that X factor that we were talking about when Turri was on the program, that you have to have that fire to win a football game, especially when you're playing a good team.
Clemson came to play a football game, Alex, and Duke came to fight.
Yeah.
And when that happens, if you don't come to fight too and you get punched in the face, you generally are going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
And Duke knocked them out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and going back to the weird game, there was a reporter who will not be named from ESPN who was trying to make it seem like maybe it wasn't as weird as Dabo made it out to be, that they rushed for 200 and threw for 200 and didn't win. I think he said that only happens about 60% of the time when you rush for 200 and throw for 200 to win the game. But Ross Taylor, Clemson SID, had a good stat that he tweeted out earlier today. Said in the college football playoff era, there have been 1,789 instances in which an FBS team passed for 200 and rushed for 200 and gave up 28 or fewer points in a single game. Teams who accomplished those three metrics were combined 17, 48, and 41 in that span. That's 97.7% of the time the team that passed for 200, ran for 200, and held their opponent to less than 28 points won the game. So it is a rare instance to see what happened on Monday night happen. But I'd almost be willing to bet that if you went back and looked at those instances, that the games look really similar, that you turn the ball over in the red zone, and that you just didn't punch the ball in. I mean, that's the only way that you can.
You didn't just turn the ball over in the red zone. You got to the 1 yard line 2 times and didn't score. Now, tell me another time you've watched a team get to the 1 yard line twice and not score.
I think maybe when I was in high school, I think we did that.
Okay, but then I want to throw it to you. Tell me another team that got to the one that got inside the 5 3 times and didn't score.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck finding that.
Good luck finding that. Then tell me another time where those things happened and you also had 2 field goals that were blocked.
Yeah.
Tell me that. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Dabo was totally right. It was a freaking weird game.
I'm not going to say it was a fluke because it is a good Duke football team. If it wasn't a good Duke football team and they lost that game, that'd be a fluke.
It's a
so
good
I'm not gonna
football
say it was a
team.
fluke.
They'll win 8 games this year, I think minimum. I think 9 is their max. When you look at their schedule, they got a pretty hard schedule. They got to play Florida State, Notre Dame. They did beat Clemson, and I think they got Miami and Pittsburgh. So they got a hard schedule. I think they could go 8-4, 9-3. I think they start off the year 4-0, but I think they go like 4-4 or 5-3 down the stretch. So they'll win these next 3 games because they're winnable, easy games. They should be favored in them. But then after that, I think they play Florida State in week 5, and that's going to be a tough one for them. So, yeah, we'll see. We're going to find out a lot about Duke. They are a good football team, but they're not a great football team. And Clemson, we said this last week, Alex. We said it. We warned people, if Clemson doesn't play well, Duke's good enough to beat them.
Yeah, we absolutely said that. Anybody who wasn't saying that wasn't paying attention to what Mike Elko's done since he arrived on campus in Durham. He's a heck of a coach. He's got a heck of a team. If you want to talk about developing talent, they had 2 4 or 5 stars on their roster, and they were able to go beat a team that had 50. So if you want to talk about developing talent, then you need to look at Mike Elko. He just made himself the hottest name in college football coaching
if he wins 8 games this year after winning 9 last year,
he's going to get a nice little paycheck somewhere else.
Duke can't keep him. He'll go, and he needs to go somewhere else because I saw Duke's facilities. That's what my column was about. Alex Turri was talking about. I saw Duke's facilities, and dude, trust me, Duke's improved their facilities, but they're still like number 12 in the ACC.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not great. I mean, they literally had a high school scoreboard. I know people saw the big Jumbotron on TV, but the one you didn't see was to the right of the press box, and it literally was a scoreboard similar to what you'd see at Daniel High School. As I said on another show I was on, I said that actually the scoreboard at Daniel High School is nicer than what Duke had.
Yeah, I think Greer's got a nicer one too. But, there are so many things that are frustrating about the game when you look at it. But I think the X factor was definitely Steve Spurrier was in the building.
He got Dabo again.
They got him again. He probably had a couple cores up there in the suite.
Clemson had weird turnovers against South Carolina all the time.
I know. That's what I was getting at.
Had a quarterback that could run.
It's the Spurrier effect. I mean, Riley Leonard looked like Connor Shaw back there. But yeah, it was a crazy, crazy weird game. And RIP to my college football playoff prediction that I gave 2 weeks ago. I had LSU and Clemson in the playoff, and LSU, there's still room for them, I think, but they've got a tough schedule. And then Clemson, man, me and you were talking the other night, just looking back at the schedule and resetting our floor and ceiling. for what we think the Tigers can accomplish, and it is tough sledding. When you lose to Duke to open the year, it's one thing when you lose to Georgia to open a year, which has always been the thorn in Clemson's side. When they lose to Georgia at the start of a year, it kind of ruins the whole season.
Yeah,
but when you lose to Duke to start the year,
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, Alex, here let's be real, okay?
This is why Dabo has the goal of winning the opener, because it really is.
It sets
one of the
tone.
Most important things that you can do as a football team.
Yeah,
is to win
and
your
Clemson,
first
you
game.
take it for granted because Clemson wins 80% of the time in the openers, and you
Yep.
take it for granted. But to your point, Clemson, okay, the next 2 weeks they should win, obviously, right? But then check this out. Check this 3-game slate out.
Yeah.
Host Florida State. Go to Syracuse, where they haven't played well the last couple times they've played up there. And remember 2017, let's not forget that was a way better Clemson team in 17.
And this is a bold – I mean, this is a Syracuse bowl team.
This
is a
bowl
team
team
that returns a lot of talent. This is a team with a good offensive and defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
It's a well-coached team. I mean, this isn't a Scott Schaefer Syracuse team.
And
This is a good Syracuse football
And then
team.
after that, you got Wake Forest at home. Now, I think you should win that, but that's
Dave
not
Clawson. I mean,
that's
he's
not-
shown that he's been able to build something there.
That's not easy. Then you go to Miami, and we talked about how Miami looks better right now this year.
We'll find out a lot more about Miami this weekend, but that
Then you go
opener
to
was
NC State.
impressive.
I mean, Alex, could we really be seeing Clemson at 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, 1-3, 1-5 to start the ACC season? I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Yeah, neither of us.
These
I don't
games,
think, they're not
what we
games
thought
that you
were
can roll
winnable.
you can't
not-
roll your helmet in there and win those games.
Yeah, they're not like games where we can just go ahead and give them a W beside it anymore.
Yeah.
I think what we saw the other night, we can't say, well, that's a win. We can't do that.
Yeah,
Because Syracuse is a bowl team, as you pointed out. Wake Forest is a bowl team. Now, good news is Clemson's got them in Death Valley. That'll help. Miami, I think, is a bowl team. And NC State, I think, is a bowl team. Those are pretty good football teams.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go on the road and beat, except Wake Forest, who comes to Death Valley. And your other home game's Florida State. It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, you're staring down the barrel of a difficult schedule. I do think that.
By the way, you get Notre Dame after that NC State game.
As much criticism as the HEC has gotten over the last several years, when you look at the conference top to bottom, it seems like that massive gap that Clemson had over the rest of the conference, it's about right here now. It is razor thin margin.
Florida State might be right here.
I'm not even going into Florida State yet.
What I mean by that, this is Clemson and here's Florida State.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, but it's tough sledding for the Tigers. One thing I wanted to point out, and this was kind of a mind-boggling statement to hear as a reporter, is Barrett Carter talking to the media earlier this week and saying that he's not in game shape. You've obviously been doing this a lot longer than I have, but I've been interviewing players and coaches since I was 12 years old, and never once have I heard a player say that they weren't in game shape. Not in high school, not in college, not in indoor football. Have I heard a player say they weren't in game shape?
I've never heard it in a media setting. Have I heard it in, just talking and you're just talking to the guys and,
or maybe a joke.
Let's be honest.
Maybe you hear it in a joke. It's like, man,
in college football, you don't get a preseason game. And so you understand it. And, me and Levon have talked about this. He talked about when he was playing in the NFL, he's like, those preseason games, you needed. You told the coach, I got to play. Because if you didn't play, like that first game of the regular season, you weren't ready for it, he said. Because you needed that game to kind of get hit, to get that feel back and stuff like that. College, you don't get that, right? You get it in high school. You get it in the NFL. You don't get it in college. And keep this in mind, Alex. Dabo set a lot of guys during fall camp in those scrimmages because he wanted to see what he had in his other players. He wanted to see those youngsters, what the depth looked like and things of that nature. So Barrett Carter didn't play very much in those scrimmages. And so you go not playing hardly at all in real football terms, to all of a sudden you got to play Duke, who I told you, and if you listen to me and Alex, we told you Duke's a physical football team, and they were going to bring it.
I need to go splice the clip from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And post it to social just so people know we're not blowing smoke up their tail. There's only one other show that I heard over the last couple weeks. Well, Packers talked about it on the ACC network. Right. But one other non-affiliated show that I've heard over the last couple weeks talk about how Duke legit has a chance in the game against Clemson. It was Josh from Late Kick is the only other person I heard talk about how Duke, they have a good football team, but still it doesn't excuse. We talked about this the other night. There are a few things that you don't do as Clemson football. And one of those things is you don't lose. You don't lose to Duke. You don't. It doesn't matter how good of a team they have. Duke's had some good teams under Cutcliffe, and Clemson beat the heck out of them.
2018, Clemson beat them like a drum.
Clemson went up there with Taj Boyd and the boys when Duke had a lot of hype. And
Duke played for the ACC championship game that year.
Yeah, and play for a chance to go, and they didn't have any issues. It's just you don't do it. And you definitely don't do it in this era where, Clemson's expectations have gone from, man, it's been 30 years since we've been playing for an ACC title. When you've gone from that to, Clemson played in 6 straight college football playoff games. They won the league 7 out of 8 times. In this era of Clemson football, you definitely can't do it.
Well, but let's say it's 20 years, not 30. Let's not make it sound worse than it was, because I remember it. It was 20. If it was 30, I don't know if I would have survived.
Felt like 100. Felt like 100.
Felt like 100. But no, you're right. And I wrote that column the other day, Clemson should never lose to Duke, and they should never be embarrassed by Duke.
And it's not this isn't to disrespect what Riley Leonard and Mike Elko did. I feel like we've covered that.
Right. No, we weren't disrespecting them.
They deserved to win the game. I said it at halftime.
Yeah.
When Clemson had already been to the red zone and didn't punch the ball in, I looked at my buddy and told him that Clemson didn't deserve to win the game. That Duke was outplaying them.
Yeah.
So it's not to say it's not a slight to Duke.
But when you look at Clemson, and as I pointed out these things, you look at Clemson, you put too much money into your football program. Look, Clemson, we've heard all offseason, Clemson and Florida State aren't happy with the revenue shares and things of that nature because the amount of money they put into their football programs. Other schools aren't doing it. They're kind of carrying the conference, if you will. All true, by the way. And when you look at what Clemson puts into its football program, go look at the facilities over there. Go look at Tiger Walk. Then go see what I saw at Duke. Okay? It felt like I was going to a high school game, Alex. There was nobody tailgating. Nobody's tailgating. Nobody. Not one single person. Mind you,
the game is on a Monday, but it's Labor Day. It's not
I got there 3 hours for kickoff. Nobody was tailgating.
It's not like anybody had work to go to.
Not like anybody had anything to do. I go in there. I go set up everything. It's a dead atmosphere all the way up into the game. Now, it's a good crowd. Very good crowd. But then you look where the practice facilities are. You look at their indoor facility. You look where the visitors' locker rooms are located. Everything reminds you of a high school. It reminds you of a very high, like a Burns High School or something like that, right? Like a Northwestern in South Carolina. That's what it reminds you of. It doesn't remind you of a Division I major college football program. It doesn't. And that's who just beat you by 21 points.
Yep.
That's why it's unacceptable for Clemson to lose to Duke. That's why losing 28-7 was embarrassing. And here's why also that's embarrassing. Clemson hasn't lost that bad to Duke since 1936. FDR was the president, and America was in the Great Depression. That's how long it's been since Duke beat Clemson like they did the other night. That's why it's unacceptable. That's why it's embarrassing, and it should never happen again. Never. It should not happen again. Yep. Not unless Duke somehow just starts putting all their money and they build up a new Death Valley over there in Durham, and they got these great facilities. I don't see Duke doing that anytime soon. Give Duke credit for the win. They outplayed Clemson. They did everything they were supposed to. Total credit to Mike Elko and his staff and his players over there. But Clemson, shame on you. Shame on you for being outclassed and outplayed by Duke. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, this is losing to Duke is one of the things that can get somebody fired at Clemson. if we're being honest.
Well,
there have been coaches who've been.
It did get
fired
Tommy
for
West
losing
fired in 1998.
Yep.
He lost, but he only lost by 5 points.
A lot different Duke team, a lot different Clemson team.
A lot different Clemson team.
But
Clemson
still,
is a national championship program, so a little different than it was in 1998.
Yeah. But these are things that you don't do if you're Clemson football.
Right. Clemson fans have – my whole point of all this –
they have every right to be upset.
They have every right to be upset. Every right. And Dabo or none of the players should say anything about it except, yep, we let you down. We apologize.
Yep. You shouldn't be chuckling.
No, nobody should be chuckling.
But,
by the way, Detroit beat Kansas City 21-20.
Talk about being outclassed by a team that you shouldn't lose to.
How about that?
So that's some crazy stuff in the NFL. Will, I want to get to talking about some other stuff around the country.
Go ahead, let's do it.
We got to do this. But right before we do that, is there anything that Clemson could do over the next 2 weeks to make fans feel better?
Here, and I'll get into this real fast, and you can go to, I'll have this preview story tomorrow, Clemson Insider, and
280 characters.
We got Ty. Yeah, Clemson should 280 characters.
Put it on X. What would you put on X?
I would put on X. Clemson needs to win 59-0, and they need to keep their starters in the game as long as possible so they can get confidence.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Defense needs to get a shutout. Look, I hope that they should get a shutout, and Charleston Southern has no more. Charleston Southern doesn't even make 100 yards. If you can hold Miami to less than 100 yards last year, then you can hold Charleston Southern to less than 100 yards.
This is a Charleston Southern team that beat North Greenville by one score because North Greenville had a runoff at the end of the game to lose. They had a false start and didn't have a timeout, so they lost on a runoff. Division II North Greenville should have beat this team on the road last week. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you. You got to beat the brakes off of this team. What was it? Oregon beat Portland State 81-7.
Right.
That's the kind of game that you need to have.
Except Saturday. Don't give them the 7.
Yeah, don't give them the 7. But I think people would feel better if your third string gives up a touchdown at the end. But
I won't.
You beat the brakes out of.
Don't give them a 7. I want to see a shutout. I want this defense to back up its talk.
Yeah, if you have the best linebackers in the country, I want to see
the best defensive line.
Best defensive line. You got all these guys coming back. They're making all this money. Yeah, you want to see the team go out and put a shutout.
Exactly.
So I'm 100% with you on that. Let's get to some stuff around the country. Smoke or fire. We did this a couple weeks ago, and one of the teams is back on the list. Smoke or fire. Colorado. Coach Prime goes and beats TCU, a ranked TCU team that was in the national championship game last year. Beats them on the road. After all the criticism, I think Tom Luganville said that they had the worst roster in Power 5. I bet he feels like an idiot this week for saying that. But smoke or fire on Colorado.
Ow. Hot. Prime is hot. I'm going to tell you. They look good. Now, I know they got to play. They very well go out there and lose to Nebraska this week because that's college
Nebraska's
football.
Quarterback is?
Yes.
Jeff Sims is a quarterback. Jeff Sims hasn't shown me that he can beat anybody in the
I'm not saying. I said, but that's how college football is. You just go out there, you just shock the world. You go beat the runner-ups to the national championship, and you go lose to Nebraska. Why not? That's what college football does. That's what it does. It humbles you very quickly. Ask Dabo Swinney. Ask Clemson. College football will humble you, and so. But right now, I say yes, fire. Definitely fire for Colorado.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on the Colorado being fire. Shedeur Sanders, unbelievable. Travis Hunter,
oh my god.
A guy playing both ways
is
in
he,
Power 5 football? Are you kidding me? And doing both positions well against a good team. I mean, they weren't playing Charleston Southern last week.
Yeah.
They were playing a good TCU team in Fort Worth, and that kid was flying around. That's my favorite for the Heisman.
What did he play? 150-something plays? 4 false starts. So he played actually 153 snaps. 153 snaps. That's like Charles Woodson, like 2.0 on steroids.
Yeah.
And anybody who saw Charles Woodson play, Charles Woodson was phenomenal. Could play offense and defense and was a playmaker on both sides. But he didn't play 153 snaps.
Yeah, I got fire all the way on Prime. I think that they're going to beat Nebraska by 2 touchdowns on Saturday. Our photo editor, here in Rapid City is a big Cornhusker guy, and he is not looking forward to the game this weekend. And I don't blame him.
Tell him that this is college football and
anything can happen.
Well,
anything can happen, but for me to believe that Matt Rule, the guy that ruined my Panthers,
but Matt Rule's a good college coach though. So
yeah, well,
I'm just saying,
we'll see.
Very good defense Nebraska has.
Yeah. So North Carolina, smoke or fire. They go out and beat the Gamecocks to get 9 sacks.
Yeah.
I know the offensive line, whew, that's going to be a rough year for Spencer Rattler back there if those guys can't figure something out. But smoke or fire on Mac Brown's Tar Heels.
All right, now I'm going to say smoke still because I want to see – I still saw the back end of that defense give up big plays, even though their front was getting pressure and stuff like that.
I thought the front seven looked much improved. But
it looked much improved, but South Carolina, as you just mentioned, their offensive line's horrible. So I want to see them play that way against a good to average offensive line. That's what I want to see them do. So right now I'm going to hold off. I'm going to say smoke right now. I still got to see it because I don't think South Carolina is a very good football team. And so that's why I'm going to go smoke right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that there might be some little sparks under there. Might be some. I mean, Drake May is a great player. Drake May is a great player. Gene Chizik. It seemed like definitely had the boys ready to play in the opener. I don't think very many people expected the game to have such a wide margin, except I think we alluded to that a couple weeks ago that we thought that would be maybe a little bit different than some of the people hyping it up in week 1. But I'm going to say, too early to be determined as well on North Carolina. I think we're going to agree on this one too. My last smoke or fire, Florida State just going and beating the brakes off of LSU after Brian Kelly said that they were going to beat the heck out of Florida State, which I think he tried to walk it back and say that he would never say that. Dude, there's audio. We all heard you say it.
You said it on your radio show,
on your radio show. So I don't know how you deny that, but that's that seems to go with other things that Brian Kelly's denied in the past that there was clear evidence of. So
we won't go there.
We won't go there. But smoke or fire on Florida State?
I'm gonna say fire. I like this team. I like what I saw the other day. I have to be the first one to apologize. So I was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't think Florida State. I thought they'd be a good team. I never said they weren't going to be a good team, but I thought they would be the team that would lose this game and might lose to Clemson and be 2-2 after week 4. I didn't think it was going to be Clemson.
Yeah.
And so, so I got to apologize to Florida State because I think they are a college football playoff team. I like their defense. They got after it. They made I'll give, as much as it hurts me to say it, I give Mike Norvell credit for him and his staff making adjustments at halftime and really shutting down LSU's offense that was giving them fits in the first half. LSU in the first half have over 200 yards, like 280 yards of total offense or something like that. And I think they had less than 100 in the second half. So give Florida State a ton of credit for the adjustments they made. And now I did see some things that concern me, and I think Clemson can really exploit it, expose it in that game. LSU, I think, did expose it, and that's you can get pressure on the quarterback there and Jordan Travis. And when you do, it looks like he makes bad decisions. I'll be honest with you. He should have had like 3 interceptions in that first half.
There were also some drops that maybe concerned me about Florida State earlier in that game.
They had a couple of drops, but they fixed it, though. The second half, you didn't see any. Yeah. But right now, I'm going to say fire because they just look so dominant in that second half. And when a team goes in and adjusts the way Florida State did at halftime as a coaching staff, we've seen Clemson do that so many times in the past when Brent Venables and those guys were on the staff. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I think they're legit. Florida State is definitely on fire.
I think fire might be too small of a word. I think it's more of like a blazing inferno in Tallahassee right now. Before the season, I'm going to eat a little crow here too. I said that I could see Florida State losing 3 games. I don't know if I can see them losing 1 at this point. I think maybe they could have a letdown at a Pitt or something like that. But man, that team looked good on Sunday night. Keon Coleman, the Michigan State transfer, unreal. 9 catches, 122, 3 tutties. That kid is legit.
Clemson could have had him, and what I mean by that
he was in the transfer portal. we talked before the season. I think week 1 of the season is completely changed. It's definitely changed my perspective. I'm from talking to you. I know it's changed yours as well. But before the year, I think both of us were, you want to use the transfer portal maybe to fill a couple holes. I can understand the value in it, but building your team off of it, maybe not as good of a decision. I do think that it's risky. It's like trading penny stocks or something.
I still think it's risky also.
You win big or you lose big. But what Colorado did on Saturday and what Florida State did on Sunday, I think that maybe it's causing some people in Tiger Town to take a hard look in the mirror this week.
Yeah, it is. Dabo was asked about that last night, and he got defensive about it and said that's not why they lost. It had nothing to do with why they lost. And so I kind of responded to that in a column tonight where, Dabo's correct. It's directly, it did not result in why they lost the game. Red zone, all the stuff we talked about earlier did. But indirectly, it absolutely cost them the game, because if they could have had a guy like Keon Coleman who would have been available to them if they really wanted to go out and try to get him, imagine that guy on Clemson's roster.
Yep.
He would be a difference maker.
Yeah,
and they'd be able to do anything they wanted to on offense. Clemson doesn't have a guy like that. Not even close to having a guy like that. I mean, it's like men against boys when you compare him to Clemson's receivers. Without a doubt, I think, Clemson could have benefited from going and getting 1 or 2 wide receivers in the transfer portal.
Well, I think even if Clemson did what Virginia Tech did, Virginia Tech went and got Allie Jennings from Old Dominion, and that kid's a heck of a ball player. If Clemson goes and gets Allie Jennings, they're a better football team today than they were a year ago.
Well, the reason you like Coleman's because he's 6'4". He goes up and gets the ball. He's physical. Well, who does that remind you of? I don't know. Mike Williams? Duke Hopkins? I don't know. Just pick one.
Yeah.
Jerome Peake.
just to have a guy in that wide receiver room with experience and the ability to make an explosive play. And we did not see that on Monday night. In any sense of the word, did we see an ability for this offense to be explosive? And, of all the talk in the offseason of this, things that I heard that from the spring, that, Clemson only ran this many plays in the spring game and they've really got all this stuff in the arsenal. I didn't see anything in the arsenal that didn't look like the same stuff they were doing last year.
I didn't see it either.
Unless the wrong read was made on the RPO every time, which I don't think that was the case.
Which I don't think that was the case either. I don't understand what happened the other night. We didn't see anything that we were promised we were going to see. And they didn't hold back against Duke. I heard some people say, well, maybe they held back. No, they didn't hold back
when you're losing. You don't hold back when you're losing to a good team.
That's a good team.
You can't tell me that they weren't using the whole play.
Clemson didn't go into that game thinking, they were just going to roll over Duke. The coaches knew that was a good team. And they went in there with a game plan that we got to have a game plan that's going to work, because we just can't sugarcoat it and get through it. They knew they had to have a good game plan and play well to win that game, and they didn't. They didn't have a good game plan, and they didn't play well. So they lost both ends, if you will. So we'll see. But I'll go back to our original point. Could Clemson have benefited from the transfer portal this year, especially at wide receiver? Yes, absolutely. And it probably is going to be the difference between being an ACC champion, college football playoff contender, to going to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah, 100% with you. And I think, too, that I think there are a lot of people in the sport, a lot of people in our position as sports journalists or broadcasters, reporters, talking heads, whatever, that are looking at Clemson this week and saying that not using the transfer portal is the problem. And I don't think that not using the transfer portal is the problem as much as it's a symptom of the things that we've seen over the last few years from Clemson. Mm-hmm. It's an inability to adapt to the current landscape of college football. We see it in the way that Clemson has or hasn't been able to use NIL. We see it in the way that Clemson has or hasn't had the ability to use the transfer portal. I think that these things that we're talking about are symptoms, but the root cause is an inability to adapt. And to Clemson's credit, they went out and made a change on the staff. That was another thing that people were talking about as a problem, that they went out and they made a change on the staff and brought in Garrett Riley. But, I think that may have been treating a symptom instead of treating the core issue as well.
Yeah, and obviously he doesn't have all the weapons he needs. And he even said that. If you go back and listen to him in the preseason, we asked him about, what's this offense going to look like and on. He says, I don't know because I really need to see the wide receivers. Because in the spring, nobody, because all the guys were injured, they didn't play. So he didn't really get to see Adam Red or Bocons or any of those guys. So he really didn't have a good idea of what his receivers were going to be. And I think when he saw in camp, and that's when he came out with we're probably going to be air raid.
Or the dirt raid.
I mean, we're going to be, sorry, not air raid.
The dirt raid.
Dirt raid. Yeah. And I think
I didn't see the dirt raid on Monday either.
Well, we did sort of. They went over 200 yards rushing, and they just needed to give the ball more to and I want to know who wasn't giving the ball more to number one. That's what I want. I want to know who made the call not to give number one the ball. Because I tell you, Dabo, you need to get your nephew or niece or whoever now, since Will and them are all grown up and you can't get any of them, or actually put Will back on the sideline. He's up in the press box. I know he helps Qualk on after the games and all. Put Will back on the sideline and have him be your touch coach again. And Will Shipley needs to carry the ball. Carry, understand that word. Needs to carry it 25 times a game.
Yep.
Carry the ball. Phil Maffa needs to carry it 10 to 15 times a game.
Yep.
Clemson needs to run the ball.
I mean, I thought he looked awesome.
He looked good too, but he only got 9 carries.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Those two guys only combined for 26 carries. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Those two guys need to be combining for over 40 carries.
Yep.
So anyway, that's just me. That's just me. I don't want to get back on that soapbox again.
100% with you. We could talk about this until, it's already almost midnight on the East Coast as we're recording this.
Yeah.
So last thing, want to do our pick 6 here. Pick 6 games from around the country. We're going to pick on the spread.
Let me pull up my thing here. Go ahead. You can start talking.
I did not go back and look at our records. I think that we ended we ended week 0 even, or you may have been up 1.
I think I was up 1.
Okay. I think there was one maybe that we differed on the spread. I know we both picked against UMass. Bunch of dummies. We should have picked Tyson.
I think we both. I was 4-2. I think you were 3-3.
Yeah. So we're still in it. It's not a blowout. I'm still.
By the way, Levon,
undefeated.
Undefeated. The guy's unbelievable. He picks like 80% all the time. It's like it's the most craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like he hates picking. Man. He's like, I hate picking, Will, and he's like, just kills it every time. So go ahead.
Okay, so we'll lead it off here with a game that Alex Turri mentioned as a mortal lock earlier in the program. Ole Miss 7.5-point favorites at Tulane. That game's at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday in Nolens. Will, what you got?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Alex on this. I think I like Tulane to cover. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but I'm gonna go ahead and take them to cover that plus 7.5 there. So give me Tulane on that one.
That was my inkling earlier. I think hearing Turri and hearing you maybe convinced me more, but I'm going to go just full outlaw here, and I'm going to pick Ole Miss to cover.
Okay.
I'm going to go against my better judgment and pick Ole Miss to cover because I feel like, honestly, we're probably going to be pretty similar on a lot of these, and I want to be different.
Hey, that's what makes it fun.
Lane Kiffin's got Hasbulla in his corner. I don't know if you even know who Hasbulla is.
I don't, but that's okay.
Oh, man. Well, Lane Kiffin's got Hasbulla in his corner, so I'm going with Hasbulla and Ole Miss.
All right, go ahead, buddy.
The next one, Texas A&M, 4-point favorite on the road at Miami.
Give me the Hurricanes. Give me the Hurricanes to cover on this. I want to pick them straight up.
You don't want to pick them straight up,
but I'm afraid to.
We're only picking against the spread, so you don't get penalized in our.
No, but if you pick them straight up, that's saying they got to win it, right? And so that's a different kind of pick.
You think they're going to lose by 3?
But they could probably lose by 3. I can see it. I can see it by 3. Yeah, I can see them lose by 3. So give me Miami plus the 4.
All right, looking back to last year,
So if they do win straight up, I win.
This was a game between two bad teams, and Miami was in it on the road at College Station.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Miami is a much improved team. Texas A&M still not sold on the whole Bobby Petrino's calling plays and Jimbo's not thing.
I'm not either.
I don't believe it for a second.
I wouldn't trust Bobby Petrino for nothing.
Yeah, I got Miami straight up in that one. So I'm going to have the boldness to say that I'm riding with the Canes. There might actually be a few people in the stands.
So you're picking Miami straight up. See, why don't you just take the +4, and then if they win, you win?
I know, but I'm not actually putting money
But if they don't win, if they lose by 3 points, you don't win because you said straight up.
Yeah, but I'm going Miami straight up.
I got to teach him how to do it, guys. I got to teach him how to do it.
All right, the next one I got SMU +15.5 at Oklahoma, 6 p.m. Eastern time. SMU, they got a good football team. Do you think that they can cover the 15.5 at Oklahoma, or do you think Oklahoma's got it figured out?
You know, if we were doing smoke and fire here, I would put Oklahoma under smoke.
Me too.
Because I mean, they played nobody last week, and you know that was a good win for them. It got some confidence, and maybe that'll carry over into this week. But as you mentioned, SMU's a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
Now I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma, and I hope they don't because I want to see Brent get to 2-0 to start.
Would you be surprised if they did?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. No, I wouldn't. So with that said, go ahead and give me SMU plus the 15.5.
Yeah, I got SMU with the points as well in that one on the Plains. Palace on the Prairie. I got SMU playing a good game down there, making some people nervous in Oklahoma. All right, the next one, Oregon, 6.5-point favorite at Texas Tech, 7 p.m. Eastern. Texas Tech team that lost in what I thought was the best game of the weekend at Wyoming. The
second best game. Best game of the weekend. Colorado TCU was unbelievable,
dude. Overtime. I mean, it was a heck of a game.
Yeah, but Colorado Tennessee, nobody led by more than 4 points the whole game.
You were just tired. That's why you didn't think it was as good of a game. But I'm around a lot more cowpokes than you are.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you think. That's what you feel.
So what you got?
Interesting here because Texas Tech was up 17-0 in that game last week and seemed like they were going to cruise.
They missed a couple field goals too.
Yeah, and so I think they bounced back. I don't know if they beat Oregon, but it's hard to play in Lubbock. Lubbock can be a difficult place to play, especially if you don't play there that often. I think Texas Tech gives them a ride. I think Bo Nix becomes Bo Nix again. His Heisman campaign comes to an end here.
Well, he had a great game last week, so he's due to have a horrible game.
So I've been taking the underdog right all day. So I might as well. I'm going again. Give me Texas Tech plus the 6.5 there.
Oh man,
Leonard's
this is a tough one. It is a hard place to play. You know, Bo Nix, he's got to back up those billboards he's put all over the country. He's got to play like a guy whose face is on a billboard in New York City for some reason, because you know that's where all the Heisman voters live. They all live in New York,
or they live in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, random. I've got the other thing too. I think people are going to be probably more willing to put Oregon with the points here because Texas Tech lost at Wyoming. Because I think that people don't understand that Wyoming's a good football team, and they're consistently a good football team. Mm-hmm. Craig Bowles built a heck of a program over there. So I'm with you. I think Texas Tech as the underdog. I don't know that they win it straight up. I don't think they do. But I got them with the points as well.
Yep.
And the game of the weekend, many people think.
Texas, I know where you're going.
Texas is 7-point dog at Alabama, 7 p.m. at Bryant-Denny. That's in Eastern time, but they're in the Central time zone. Who you got in the battle of the traditional powers? It was a heck of a game last year, and Alabama.
Texas should have won it.
And Alabama doesn't have Bryce Young this year.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a quarterback. Their third string quarterback makes more money than some NFL guys.
That's true. All true statements. Last week we saw the beginning of the end of the Clemson era dynasty. This week we see the beginning of the end of the Alabama dynasty.
Woo!
I'm going straight up.
Straight up.
Hook 'em horns, baby.
Man, straight up with the horns. It's hard for me to disagree with you. Here's the other thing, too. When you look at Alabama, the games that they lose, a lot of times they lose them at home.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the same home game pull that Clemson does. They lose games at Bryant.
Even though they're 56-2, same as Clemson at home.
Yeah.
Well, they're 57-2 now because they won last week at home. So,
I think that Texas wins as well.
but I understand your point you were making.
Yeah. I got Texas with winning the game straight up.
Yeah, and the reason why I like Texas in this game, to give it a little more background, Texas didn't show much last week against Rice. And everybody's like, oh, Texas looked horrible. And, what's his name?
They look like a team that's playing Alabama this week.
They look like a team that's playing Alabama next week, and they still won 27 points, and everybody said they looked horrible.
Against a Rice team that has JT Daniels, who's 36 years old, playing.
Yeah, and they played an FBS
college
team. They didn't play, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama had to play their quarterback and had to get them some confidence and had to do the stuff they did with them. And it worked. And they won 56-7. They looked good doing it. Don't get me wrong. But I think Texas held back. I think Texas knows they can play with Alabama. I think Texas believes we should have beat them last year. And
I don't disagree.
And I don't disagree either.
And they don't have Bryce Young. Jalen Milroe has not convinced me that he has that thing that Bryce Young, that Tua, that heck even McElroy had, where he could take you down the field to win a game. Hasn't convinced me of that. So maybe he will on Saturday. But
yeah, we've only seen them once, and so we'll see. We'll see how they do. But right now, I like Texas. I think 7 is really high for this line.
I agree.
I really do. I think you're giving too much respect to Alabama and not enough to Texas. I think Texas is going to go in there mad. I think they can play physical with Alabama. I think they got better playmakers on the outside than Alabama does. I think they got a better quarterback. So I'm gonna take the team with the better quarterback and better playmakers, and that's Texas.
And then the last game I got here, and I was kind of wanted to go with a different game, but I couldn't find a line on it, which doesn't make any sense. But we've got Notre Dame -7.5 at NC State. Carter Finley, a tough place to play. I know NC State, they didn't look very good at UConn last week, but it could have been some of the same stuff that we're talking about, that they knew they had a good Fighting Irish team coming in.
Maybe. I mean, yes and no. I think maybe there's something to that. But NC State doesn't have playmakers either.
No.
And I think that shows when you watch them play. They're going to be tough. They're physical. If this game was at night, I would like NC State's chances better.
But it's at noon.
Notre Dame's kind of getting away with one here because it's a noon kickoff. I know the people in Raleigh are mad.
Who's making this decision to put this game in? I'm with them.
Yeah.
This needs to be an 8:00 primetime game. You need to have all those fans at Carter Finley. The whole pack needs to be liquored up for this game.
Now remember, it was NC State last year that really took it to our boy over there at Wake Forest. That was at Wake Forest. Now he's at help me out. What am I doing?
Notre Dame. Sam Hartman.
Sorry.
At Wake Forest.
Yeah, when he was at Wake Forest, they took it to him last year. NC State's defense did. I think NC State's defense is the best defense Notre Dame obviously has seen to this point. It's a really good defense. Notre Dame doesn't have any great skill players on the outside either. That's one thing.
Sam Hartman is still.
But Sam Hartman makes guys look good.
I want to see Sam Hartman in a system that's not built for him really impress me.
Yeah.
Beating Navy, beating up on, whoever, Sister Mary last week. That doesn't impress me. I want to see Sam Hartman go against a good NC State defense and show me that he's the quarterback that everybody's been saying he is.
Yeah, I
know he's played well at Wake Forest, but that was a system that was built to his skill set. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
I don't know if this system is built for him.
I agree. I agree with you on all those sentiments, but Notre Dame's defense is really good.
Yes.
And that's not – I saw them firsthand last year against Clemson. They pretty much brought everybody back.
Yep.
And that's a good defense. I think Sam Hartman does give them something different on offense where they're just not run left, run right, and that's how they're going to win. He does find ways to get guys involved. We've seen that the last couple of weeks where he's getting 8, 9, 10 guys involved. Who does that remind you of? I don't know. Maybe Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I don't think he's in that class yet.
I'm not saying he's in that class that they're in as far as who they are. I'm saying he's in that class of getting people involved in the offense.
So what you got? What you got?
I've been going favorites this whole time, right? I mean, going against the grain the whole time, right?
Yeah.
I'm going favorite this time. Give me Notre Dame minus the 7.5. I think the Irish win by like 10.
Yeah, I agree with you that if it's a night game, if it was a night game,
I'm going NC State all day.
I'm going NC State. There's no question in my mind. Carter Finley's still going to be rowdy at noon. Don't get me wrong. And these Notre Dame guys, they've been traveling the world this fall. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they're still have a little jet lag from the trip to Dublin. I doubt it. But I got Notre Dame covering too. I really, really wanted to pick NC State.
I didn't.
Not because I love NC State.
Well, no, just because of the coach.
Because of the environment, because of the
coach,
and because I'm not sold that Sam Hartman is the
man. Look, I'll respect you all day as a coach, and like I said, Mike Norvell. Everybody who knows me knows why I don't like Florida State. Mike Norvell. I went all the way to Tallahassee a couple of years ago, and he was too chicken to play Clemson because Jordan Travis was injured and was 70%, probably wasn't going to play, and he used COVID as an excuse and got out of it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's exactly what happened. That is what happened. I know Florida State fans say, no, it's the only time during that whole
the players.
Yeah, it's the only time during that whole mess where one team who didn't have a COVID player, they're the ones who called the game, not the team that
against
had
the team that did not meet the standards to cancel the game. They didn't meet the standards to cancel the game, and those were very safe.
Clemson cleared all the standards the ACC set forth.
It's not like the ACC had low standards for canceling games. I mean,
trust me, the ACC had higher standards than most conferences.
Exactly.
And so the ACC said Clemson was good to play. Florida State should have played the damn game. And so, yes, shame on you, Florida State, for not playing that game. And that's what. And I was there all the way, and I don't find out till 3 hours for kick. I'm on my way over to the press box.
And then I'm sitting at Will's house watching the dogs, and he gets back all angry, and then
I got back. I didn't get back till 1 o'clock in the morning because traffic. There's a bad wreck on the interstate.
His dog peed on the floor. He had a gout attack. It was a terrible night for Will.
No, that was Virginia Tech. That was Virginia Tech. But anyway, I digress. So that's why my feelings for Florida State are what they are. It's personal, but I also recognize what I saw the other night. Pretty doggone good football team. And I give them credit for what credit's due. And I'll give NC State credit when credit's due. I'm not a big fan of Dave Doran. I'm not a big fan personally of Dave Doran. But he always has a very physical football team. And they always get after you, and they always play hard. And I give him credit for him.
They play for him.
And they play for him.
His guys respect him.
Exactly.
And that's really the only thing that matters.
It don't matter what Will thinks.
Yeah.
He gives credit.
One more thing before we go. And I've wanted to put this game on the pick six, but again, I couldn't find a line for it. South Carolina this weekend playing Furman
against the Dens
at Williams-Brice. Furman, they gave Clemson trouble last year, and they're better this year than they were a year ago. I mean, this is a team that's ranked sixth in the FCS.
I've talked to some Gamecock fans. They're nervous.
Do they have reason to be nervous? That's what I want to ask you.
Yes, they do.
I agree.
I think they do have reason to be nervous.
Do you think that Hunter Reed is going to have the best day that he's had since
he's South Carolina
been working for Furman?
Yes. If it happens, it's South Carolina. It's happened before, so it's not like it hadn't happened before. Yeah. We've seen the Citadel beat South Carolina. We've seen Furman beat South Carolina.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not like it hadn't happened before. I think if South Carolina doesn't shore up things, then yes, they can be beat. Now, here's what Carolina does have going for them. I think Shane Beamer's a pretty good coach.
I think so too. I think he's proven that he can make adjustments week to week.
Exactly. He's proven that. And I think he'll adjust and he'll have his team in a position where they won't lose this game. They may not play well at times, and you might still see some problems on the offensive line at times, but South Carolina does have the better players. They do have a very good coaching staff. I think they'll figure a way to get some things fixed this week and get the win, but they're going to make them nervous.
I'd be nervous too.
They're going to make them nervous.
I bet Clemson fans are glad they're not playing Furman this weekend because they'd be feeling the same way.
Clemson fans are like, man, thank goodness we're playing Charles Southern. Now, next week against Florida Atlantic, and that quarterback Florida Atlantic has, they're going to be a little nervous in Tiger Town.
It's a well-coached team too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. Thank you to everybody that tuned into the show. I know it was a long one, but we had some guests. We had some fun. And as always, we were off the cuff. I'm Alex Dodd.
I'm Will Vandervort.
And you're listening to Off the Cuff. We'll be back hopefully next week and not in 2 weeks.